Welcome back to another Hot Air Sports podcast with me, Macca, and me good mate, Mahona. How are you this week, buddy?
Oh, mate, it's all doom and gloom around here. The All Blacks have lost their second test in a row it's been a while, hasn't it, mate? And if they lose their next one, three in a row, are we going back to the bad old days of Tane Randall back in 1998?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, first time we've lost two in a row since 2011, which is ironically the year we won the World Cup. So,
Yeah, I don't see as much of a positive upside this time. I think last time we lost, we played our second team a few times. Obviously, last week when we did play the B team, it was sort of understandable, and we were playing Australia. This time, we had our A team out against the team we'd never lost to, and we lost. So, can't see too many upsides to that, mate.
To be perfectly honest, didn't really look like winning.
No, the All Blacks have been funny, man? I mean, they were the team that you could always rely on, even with 5 minutes to go. If we were 13 points down, you'd think they'll get two converted tries. No worries. And they were always my go-to when I needed a pickup, in sport. All my teams are pants. Watch the All Blacks. They're guaranteed to win, and it's just not going right for them, is it, mate? And we talked about Ian Foster last week. We said we don't think we've had a big enough sample size. Well, maybe we have now.
Yeah. Well, you sort of hark back to the days of, when Grizz Wiley and John Hart and Graham Henry and Steve Hansen were all leading the ship. The All Blacks would grind down the opposition for the first 60 minutes and then break loose in the last 20. But the days of that happening are well gone now. Do we call it a disaster, or are we not giving the Argentinians enough credit?
Well, you've got to give the Argies credit, mate. They got up in our faces. They would not take a backward step. We were just getting knocked over at the advantage line. You have to give them credit. They've looked at the blueprint created by the Poms in the World Cup, the Irish before that, the Aussies before that, the South Africans before that. Get up in their face, smash them at the advantage line, and you got a chance. Don't play the All Blacks at their own game. So many teams have tried that before, and we'd end up smashing them. So they've got this. So now there's a blueprint in place. Obviously, it takes a lot for that blueprint to come right. But when it does, and we're slightly off, and when we get into the stupid niggle, which was obviously, taking a toll on some of our players psychologically, it just didn't look like we had any answers, mate. Just did not look like it. And you've got to give the RGs credit for that, mate. You do.
Oh, absolutely. And Ian Foster said after the game that we didn't learn from the mistakes of the previous week. And it was the seemingly more experienced players like Dane Coles and Shannon Frizzell that were the perpetrators. So what do you do?
Come on, mate. The All Blacks always take learnings. Come on. They created the term learnings. Come on. No, it was crazy. And then, Sam Cane says, we were out-passioned and, they wanted it more. Come on, guys, you got an All Black jersey on.
Yep.
Sam, you're this is your first season as captain. The one maybe positive, maybe not a positive, but the one sort of thing that you could take out of it from an All Blacks perspective was perhaps the fact that, when you look back at our great captains like Sean Fitzpatrick of the recent times, Sean Fitzpatrick and Richie McCaw especially, you'd note that early on in their careers, especially as captains, they did struggle a few times, especially to change the game plan.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that they learnt a hell of a lot more from those losses than they did from any wins. And I would just hope that the All Blacks are in the same boat this time as well, that they take a lot of those learnings and so I'm doing it myself. I hate that term. That they take it and they move with it and they learn from it and they become a better team.
At least you're not talking about the journey that we're on. That's a very good question.
John Mitchell.
That's right. And the other thing I have picked up with Sam Cane being the new All Black captain, especially over these first 5 tests, is he's still a little bit shy on having a chat with the referee. He did have a quick chat with him on Saturday, but Angus quickly told him to go away. He says, I know you're the captain and it's the first time you've been down this part of the field, so stop the talk about warnings. But, does he really – I'm sure he will. as did Richie. He was very quiet when he first started out as All Black captain. The great All Black captains, as you mentioned, Fitzy and Richie McCaw and latter years, got on very well and spoke well to the referees. So I think Sam Cane has got some learnings to do there.
It's not in his nature, is it? He's not a gregarious type of guy.
Yeah.
He's not going to be, Fitzy had it in his nature, didn't he? To sort of a bit of that niggle and all that sort of thing. I just don't think, it's something that he is going to have to grow into. I think he's probably got. I think he was definitely one of our best players on the day. Sam Cane. I mean, he's almost undroppable as a player. He'll grow into it, no doubt. But I just think there's other things about the team that we could perhaps discuss in a little bit more light that are going wrong, that perhaps the coaching can do something about, rather than the individual players. I mean, we need to pivot. When things aren't going right, you can't just keep with the same game plan, mate. And that needs to change on the field.
I was just about to say that. The glaring thing about the last 2 weekends, no plan B.
No.
They were still trying the same things in the 78th minute that they were trying in the second minute. So
and how are we going to change it up if we don't change? I mean, first of all, the aimless kicking for me, mate. I mean, I was just like, what are we kicking to? I mean, we weren't contesting the kick. We were basically have possession back, and I would have hoped that back in the Lions series that we learnt the lessons from that. Just kicking for kicking's sake. It's just crazy. Hold the ball.
Totally.
Playing players out of position is the other thing. I mean,
the likes of Richie Moanga, Nani Lamapi, Rico Ioane when he came on, they're normally line breakers, but we only had one clean line break the whole game, and that was Caleb Clark, and he had to force his way through a couple of tacklers to do that. So, what
does Will Jordan have to do to get a game for a start? Okay. What are we doing with our midfield? Why is Goodhue playing second five and Leonard Brown playing centre? Switch them around. Are the All Blacks, the coaching crew, the only people on the planet that think that those two are better in those positions? Give Goodhue some space. Put him at centre, mate. He hasn't done anything at second five.
Yeah, I just say that he's one of these players that had a great season in the red and black with the number 13 on his back.
Yeah.
Not doing so well in the black jersey with number 12 on his back.
And then Geordie Barrett, he's a fullback. Play him on the wing. It's like, why? I don't know. I just think Foster's trying to get too complicated about things.
Yeah.
Just keep it
much, I think.
Yeah, just keep it simple, mate. Keep it simple.
One thing, I guess it was only really one bad decision that I thought on the weekend. I still didn't think Angus Gardner had a great game.
No, he was inconsistent. That was the worst part.
Both ways, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But one in particular, Geordie Barrett penalised for a late charge. Really? Come on. He didn't even have his arms up.
I don't understand why the guy upstairs can't go, you got that one wrong, because beforehand, I mean, there was a couple of late hits on All Blacks that were very marginal that he let go.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, well, this is good. It's not going to be last week. It's going to be this week. Last week the guy went over the top. This week he's obviously pulled back and thought, right, I'm going to let the players sort of sort this out. And I applauded him for the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. And then he started making strange decisions for both sides, like you say. But the Geordie Barrett one was just, it was just so inconsistent with how he'd ruled earlier.
I was half expecting him to pull the yellow card out of his pocket.
I was too. I
think I texted you at that particular moment.
I think you did. I think I was too mad to text back at that stage.
Yeah. But you see those and you just shake your head, and probably the less said about that, the best.
Yeah. I mean, the refereeing in rugby is maybe at an all-time low. I mean, we've come to experience it a little bit more this year, obviously, because we've got the COVID things. We always used to moan and whinge, why do the Northern Hemisphere referees have to come down here and referees these early series? What's going on? Why can't our referees are just as good? No, I don't think they are.
No.
I think the Northern Hemisphere refs are probably better. Even though they referee a different style, I think they are more consistent with their rulings. And I think that as a spectator or as a coach or a player, that's all you want, mate. You want to know what you're getting and rule the same way for both sides. And I don't think the referees down here have done either of these sides much good.
No, I think the two best referees in the world at the moment are Nigel from Wales. I can't think of his second name.
Nigel Owens.
Owens. And sadly, the man that we all charged with costing us the 2011 Rugby World Cup, who actually turned into
he's improved a lot, though.
Wayne Barnes is now retired from refereeing international rugby. So, interesting. And I think we did a top 5 a couple of months back of referees, and I had Angus Gardner in my top 5, but last few weeks he's gone down in my estimation.
Yeah, definitely. Nigel Owens, so he's an absolute cracker. I just hope he continues refereeing. He must be getting a little bit long in the tooth as well. So God knows what's going to happen when there's more senior. Hopefully we get some more players joining the referees' ranks. Yeah. I always thought, Glenn Jackson got a lot of crap, but I always thought he was a fairly fair referee. And as a player, I think you have more respect for someone if they've sort of been there, done that, don't you? So I think we need more players.
I've heard that Kane Haynes is turning to referee.
Oh, okay.
The former Chiefs prop.
Well, you wouldn't argue with him.
yeah, exactly. He was commentating on the weekend on I think it was the Canterbury-Auckland game, and he was very good at analysing the game, but he was analysing the referees at the same time. And Tony Johnson had to say to him a couple of times, look, come on, I think you're supposed to be analysing the players and not looking too closely at the referees. And from word on the street is that he is actually a quality referee. So, I think the more players you can get turning to refereeing is only good for the game.
Absolutely. Okay, mate, the loss to Argentina has been labelled by some as the worst loss ever by the ABs. I think that's maybe drawing a fairly long bow, but obviously we'd never lost to Argentina, so maybe. Doesn't compare with these, though. I've got 4 others for you, mate. The 2007 quarterfinal, Rugby World Cup, France 20, the All Blacks 18. That was a bit of a shocker. The 2019 Rugby World Cup semi, England 19, the ABs 7. Wallabies 47, ABs 26 in Perth. I remember that one. That was only last year during the Rugby Championship. That was an absolute shocker. And, of course, the 2003 Rugby World Cup semi, France 43, the All Blacks 31. That was an absolute terrible one, mate. That one there, the 2003 Rugby World Cup semi-final. Geez, France are in a few of these. We could also go to 99, but I'm not going to do that. There's been some bad ones. How do you compare those sort of losses with the one last weekend?
Yeah, I think they're all worse, way worse than losing to Argentina. You think back to the test against Ireland in Chicago. That was quite a bad loss for the All Blacks. I actually didn't think they played that badly that day, but Ireland were up for it. Thinking back, many, many years now, the 1977 Lions that came to New Zealand were not a great team, and they beat us in the second test, and it was a terrible game. It was wet and horrible. I think it was at Lancaster Park. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah,
you were only a young boy then, so.
Oh, absolutely. I was only crikey, not out of shorts.
No.
But that was always a bad one. And the other one that really sticks in my mind was a test against Australia in 1978. Famous for the fact that Greg Cornelson scored 4 tries, and the All Blacks were about to head off to the UK. It was their last test before they headed off to the UK, which ironically became our first ever Grand Slam tour. But that it was all doom and gloom after that test. The All Blacks were going to fail over in the UK. They were a terrible team. Even though they'd beaten Australia in the test series 2-1, it was considered worst ever performance by an All Black team at that particular time. And as I say, they went on to win the Grand Slam, so shut a few people up.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, mate? Based on, we had a couple of losses now. We've got a bye this week, so we got a little bit of breathing space. What are your thoughts? Do you think the All Blacks are on, a downward spiral? Do you think there's any way up? Obviously, we're ranked third now. We've dropped another place in the world rankings. Obviously, we're in a period of transition.
Yep.
What do you think? Do you think there's a way back for the All Blacks? I think just quickly, to answer my own question, just quickly, I think when you look at the All Blacks and when you look at, the Springboks 2 years ago when they got humped up at North Harbour Stadium, it was 2017, might have been 2016, by 50-odd points. 2 years later, they won the World Cup.
Yeah.
They beat us over, they just made some tough decisions, picked the right players, sorted out their coaching, and the next thing you know, they win in the World Cup. Do you think the All Blacks have a similar trajectory that they could follow in the next couple of years, that they could be playing in the World Cup final in a couple of years?
I mean, there's been a lot of calls in the media for Foster to be replaced already.
I know.
I still think it's too early. A lot goes on one guy's head. We lost to Argentina for the first time. We're going to lose to Scotland one day.
Yep.
We've never lost to them. We've never lost.
I was going to say the same thing.
We're going to lose to them one day. It was always going to happen. It was just a matter of when, not if. So, I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think there's certainly light at the end of the tunnel. I think we might see the end of some players' international careers by the end of the year. I'm not going to name any, but, there's probably 3 or 4 players that have been around a long time and might just be, asked politely to hang up their boots at the international level. Of course, we are going to get the likes of Brodie Retallick back next year. He's away on his sabbatical this year. Everybody seems to have forgotten about him. And a lot of it, there's certainly talent out there. I mean, you look at the Super Rugby competition and even the
NPC. The NPC's been amazing.
There's some incredible young players. The boy that 18 or 19-year-old winger that kicked the 50-metre penalty goal for Canterbury on the weekend. He's a superstar in the making, that kid.
Absolutely.
And some of the young kids that I'd never heard of before in that Auckland team were really good. And I also watched the Bay of Plenty game against North Harbour on Saturday.
Oh,
incredible players.
That was hard to watch, mate.
Would have been for you.
Oh, it's so typical. We just did our normal thing. Out to a big lead.
We'll get on to that shortly. But not all doom and gloom. As I say, I think you'll find some of the more senior All Blacks will fade into the ether in coming months. Especially, it won't happen before this Argentina test in a couple of weeks. It'll just sort of happen over the summer, I think you'll find.
Yeah. Just before we go on, mate, it is today is a very special anniversary, the 5-year anniversary of my favourite All Black, along with Michael Jones, the death of Jonah Lomu. He died 5 years ago today. So I just want to shout out to him and his family, the All Black family, and everyone else that's feeling a little bit sad about that today. Jonah was like I say, he was my favourite All Black along with Michael Jones. And, I just loved watching him play. And then what he did off the field, the way he grew into just such an amazing guy who did so much for the youth. And, so rest in peace, big fella. We're always thinking of you. So
right. I think if rugby followed the American lead of retiring jerseys, I think his would have been retired a long time ago. So rest in peace, Jonah.
Yeah, we should rename Eden Park Jonah Lomu Stadium. Just putting it out there.
Quite right.
Anyway. Now, the Australian and New Zealand rugby bosses, I saw this, mate. This was bizarre. They were pictured walking almost hand in hand, barefoot along a Sydney beach last week for Playgirl, I think it was, Cosmopolitan, something like this. Is it a bit cringeworthy to announce Trans-Tasman Super Rugby competition for next year like this?
Yes. In a word, I was squirming in my seat watching the news when they showed that.
It was
like,
weird.
what are you doing?
It was weird.
It was very weird. And of course, just, yeah. We might talk about this more,
Okay.
about a certain commentator's tweet over the weekend, but,
The thing is, this was so new age, wasn't it? It was so, yet we appointed Foster. If we wanted to be the new age, we should have appointed Robertson. So you're either one thing or the other. You're either that new age, we're going to put a broom through it and have crystals and be the holistic sort of type of thing, and no, out with the old guys. We'll bring in the new guy. He can communicate better with the young generation, all that sort of thing. Or you're the old crusty state thing. What are you, mate? You're walking hand in hand with. What I said, you are the new age guy, but you're still making the old decisions. So. Yeah. I didn't get it. I just don't get it.
I didn't get it at all. Even if they'd been at Sydney at the football stadium.
It's still weird.
Between the two of them. Even that would have been a bit cringeworthy. But walking along a beach passing, come on. Anyway, back to the on-field action. And Canterbury have survived the drop after beating Auckland in a barnstorming game. I don't know if you watched this. It was an absolute cracking game.
It was a cracking game.
And with the Northerners already qualified for top spot, but the Cantabs did the job, beating the top two teams in their last two games to avoid the drop. But where was that form earlier in the competition?
I would suggest that there's probably been some brown paper bags exchanged between the Auckland and Canterbury rugby unions just to shaft North Harbour. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous result. I know they rested a few players, Auckland did, because any chance they can do to stick the boot into the younger brother, they will. But I just didn't think that they would stoop this low. They're arch rivals, the Red and Blacks. I thought, no, Auckland will not stoop that low. They'll go in there, they'll put the foot on the throat. And it started off like that. It looked like Auckland were going to absolutely carve them up, but half-time came and Canterbury came out and just a changed team, and they just looked the biz, didn't they, mate? They looked like they could take on anyone in that second half. And
I had to laugh in the pre-game when Alama Yeremia was interviewed, and it was asked if the Aucklanders were taking a bit lightly with naming their sort of B team. Oh no, absolutely not.
I saw that.
Blah, blah, blah. And then Israel Dagg comes on. He's a liar.
He's lying. They said. What did they say? They said, do you realise you could actually relegate Canterbury? No, we didn't even realise. We haven't looked at that at all. You liar. You knew exactly what was going on. And Alama Yeremia, disgraceful Auckland performance. They knew they were in there already.
Oh, look, I don't care. I'm happy.
Get stuffed. You only sing when you're winning, Macca. You only sing when you're winning.
Absolutely, yes. And well, of course, that result relegated your beloved North Harbour.
No, it didn't.
A superb second half of the competition after narrowly losing to Bay of Plenty in a real back-and-forth game, 37-33. What a heartbreaker for North Harbour.
Mate, I am proud of our team this year. We started off so badly. I thought we were bound to be relegated. About the halfway stage, I thought we were screwed. We've played so well the second half. We've improved all year, and really proud of our boys. I actually don't think this will mean relegation, because come in New Zealand Rugby Union with a brand new concept next year. There won't be any relegation. North Harbour will be playing in the Far North Conference. There'll be, I don't know. There's a new conference system coming in next year, and I don't think the relegation will actually mean anything. But I'm very proud of the North Harbour boys for the way they played, especially the second half of the season.
Well, the semi-finals are set for this weekend. Otago v Northland and Hawke's Bay v Taranaki in the championship, while Auckland host Waikato and Bay of Plenty visit Tasman in the premiership. Firstly, the championship. Who's your predicted finalists in those?
Okay, well, I mean, as much as I love Northland, I would say Otago for that first one. Yep. And Hawke's Bay have been on fire this year. Of course, they're the shield holders. So I would say Otago, Hawke's Bay final. And that could go either way. Those two teams battled it out in that shield. That was a great game as well, that shield challenge. So, that would be a worthy final. in the championship. In the other one, I mean,
But toughest one to pick.
I would have put my house on Auckland before last week, but I mean, they are getting a few players back. They will be motivated. So you'd think probably Auckland, and then the Bay of Plenty, Tasman. I mean, I would have said Tasman. Probably would have put my house on that before last week. But the way Bay of Plenty played, my gosh. What's O'Terry Black? Jeez, he's playing well. He's playing real well. And yeah, but you'd have to say probably Tasman. I would say probably Auckland, Tasman in the other final for me.
Yeah, I think both of those semi-finals are going to be barnstormers. Real back and forth games. Of course, Waikato up their game every time they travel over the Bombays to play the Orcs, and it's going to be a great game down in Nelson. I'm picking Tasman, but very close indeed in that one. So I think it's pretty obvious. We're both Hawke's Bay, Otago for the championship, and Auckland, I think, will host Tasman in the premiership final, and either of those finals could go either way. It just depends on how they go on the day. We've seen that from Tasman this year. You know, they've thrashed teams and then they've been thrashed themselves. So, a bit of...
Absolutely. Let's revisit those picks next week, eh?
Absolutely.
Now, has there been an overreaction to legendary commentator Keith Quinn's tweet that modern sports people need to harden up after visions of crying sports stars over the weekend? Keith, just stick to your Beatles, mate. Stick to your Beatles. Mate, he's just a little bit out of touch, old Keith. I mean, I don't even know why he's on social media. I thought he was still writing letters. What's he doing?
Absolutely. I mean, he's probably the first to admit he didn't word it probably in a better way. You know, he came out a day later and said, "Point taken, everyone, for the record. And in all seriousness, I think it's great these days that men can openly express their emotions. I often do it myself. I was really just thinking of the differences from earlier times." As I say, he was trying to make a point. He just didn't word it correctly. But
at least he clarified it.
Yeah, I personally think there's been a massive overreaction
of course.
To somebody.
But this is social media. Everyone overreacts.
It's got down to this fact that, you know, I probably don't say half the stuff that is in my head because I know it's going to cause a reaction. So I mean, it's a sad day when you can't express your own opinions without being vilified by the general public. But I don't agree with what he said. I can totally understand what he was trying to say.
The context, yes, exactly, and he did provide a little coupon there for a discount for Cigna funeral plan as well. So that was really nice of him. Anyway,
quite right. Onto the round ball.
Yes,
we've done rugby to the death today, I think.
Yeah.
The international break has seen more injuries, especially for our Liverpool. Joe Gomez, Jordan Henderson, and Andy Robertson suffer injuries. Gomez is out for possibly the whole season. Robbo's a muscle strain, and Jordan Henderson, Southgate says he took him off as a precaution. So he's hoping that. And now Mo Salah's got COVID. More reasons to get rid of these meaningless internationals during the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, this is interesting. I heard one of the commentators on ESPN FC, Ali Moreno, I think his name is, he was making a point about, look, internationals are just as important as club matches. There's, you know, if we suspend international matches, we'll have to suspend the Champions League as well because the teams are traveling around there. You know, crazy to say suspend these international matches. What he failed to explain was that when they're with their clubs, they're actually in bubbles, you know? Yeah. So you're traveling with your club, you know exactly who you're interacting with. When they're going out to, you know, their international teams, they're heading off themselves or with the odd player, and then they're meeting up at other airports with other people. And so they're mixing with other people, and that's how you get COVID. Exactly. So it's just, look, the important international matches that need to be played, there's no problem play those for teams that need to qualify for the big tournaments. But why are they playing friendlies? I mean, there's only one reason they're playing friendlies. It's money. It comes down to money. So what's more important, money or the health of these players? I would suggest the health of these players is way more important than money.
Well, and it's not money from the fans, is it?
No.
It's just TV money.
TV companies, yeah.
It's
it's not like it's
running world football.
Exactly, mate. It's not like FIFA or UEFA or whoever is taking the money can't afford to have a little bit of a hit with their TV revenues. I mean, all the clubs have done it for the Premiership, etc. They're just going to have to take a small hit. It's not like they're hard up for cash, mate. So,
well,
no, they just need to spend.
This is the last international break till February now, so hopefully we won't see any more of these.
More importantly, who the hell's going to play for Liverpool? Are we going to have James Milner playing at the back? He's playing in the midfield and he's playing up front. James Milner's playing everywhere.
I'm waiting for Jurgen's call.
He's got your number, mate. Honestly, I just don't have a clue who we're going to play. It's kind of exciting. It'll be interesting to see because Jurgen Klopp is the sort of manager. I do have a lot of faith in him. He does. You know, the way he even signed Andy Robertson, you know, everyone just said, oh, he's just a guy from Hull. You know, he could see talent in him. I think he'll get up. Whoever's playing for Liverpool, I've got absolute faith in Klopp doing the business. So,
yes, of course, Thiago and Fabinho will be back this week. They're back into full training. So
that's great.
Some good news. And Jenny Wijnaldum, a couple of goals for Holland the other day.
He scores a lot of international goals, doesn't he?
Score a lot of international goals. So, not all bad. England are out of the Nations League contention after a 2-0 to Belgium, but Scotland rejoice after their win. We touched on it on Friday's podcast.
We did.
Their win over Serbia to book a place in 2021 Euros and a date with England.
I know.
Won't that be great? Scotland versus England again.
They've got a date with England at Wembley, and the other two games are played at Hampden. How's that?
Yeah.
Their first international games for 20-odd years, and they're playing them at home. I mean, Scotland, fantastic. 5 guys took penalties. I watched the replay of that. That's big balls from those boys, man. I mean, 5 guys to take penalties and put your team through after 20 years. That took chops, and they did really, really well. I'm really happy for them, Steve Clark, all the guys, all of Scotland. As far as England goes, mate, Gareth Southgate, he
seems to have lost the plot a bit, hasn't he?
Mate, he's just pathetic. 2 holding midfielders. He finally gives Jack Grealish a go. Jack Grealish looks like Gascoigne. You know, he was the best player on the park by some distance. Yeah. And makes you realise why the hell hasn't this guy played 20, 30 more games for England already? Exactly. And then Gareth Southgate afterwards sort of tempers it with, Jack's still there. I just think he's way too defensive. They need to get someone in who's just who's a little bit more, I don't know.
Adventurous.
He doesn't even have to... Huh?
Adventurous?
Yeah. Because look, what's the strongest part of the English side? Definitely up front and maybe a little bit of the attacking midfield. It's definitely not at the back. So why don't you play, with those players and highlight those players' strengths instead of playing 2 holding midfielders? And I just do not get it. So, England reaped what they sowed as far as I was concerned.
Yep. And the fact that Harry Kane hasn't scored an international goal in, I think, 5 or 6 games in a row now.
Yeah. I wouldn't be concerned about him, though, mate. I mean, he's scoring for fun for Tottenham and assisting for fun as well. He's the assist king this year. So, no, I wouldn't worry about Harry Kane's form. He just needs to be put in the right formation with the right team and get a couple of crosses in the box. Whoa.
Yes. Another sad day for Liverpool fans yesterday with the passing of Ray Clements. What are your memories of one of the greatest goalkeepers to have ever donned a Liverpool shirt, if not the greatest?
Yeah, for me, he is the greatest. I mean, there was Grobbelaar, of course, but Grobbelaar was like the maverick, Clements was just Mr. Solid. I remember when he first came into the Liverpool side, 76, we conceded 22 goals that season. The next year, we conceded 12 all season in the league. The guy was just a colossus. Anytime I was playing out in the backyard and I was goalie, I either wanted to be Ray Clements or Pat Jennings. They were my two favourite goalies, and Ray Clements was just held in such high esteem for so many reasons. Well, another thing about the guy, he he was really quick. He was really quick off the mark. If the ball was just overhit, he was off his mark and straight out, and which was quite unusual in those days for the keepers. So that was part of his game, which I absolutely love. But for me, he will always be England's number one. I always thought he was better than Shilton. Couldn't understand why he wasn't getting a game for England. And rest in peace. What a player, mate. Ray Clements, and a hell of a nice guy by the sound of it as well. So just another guy taken in the year of 2020. So sad.
Yeah, only 72, which is, I mean, it's young. Obviously, the dreaded cancer got him. But as you say, a fantastic player. Signed by the legendary Bill Shankly in 1967. I was reading
from Scunthorpe.
From Scunthorpe.
Another one from Scunthorpe.
Grew up in the seaside resort of Skegness.
That's right.
And yeah, he said, there was a thing I saw on YouTube yesterday, and he was saying that in 1967 he played for Scunthorpe, and there have been rumours in the papers that a number of clubs were after him. And he knew that Liverpool was one of those when he walked down into the car park, and there was Bill Shankly standing there. So, Shanks
things were done a little bit differently back then, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And signed him basically on the spot. And just a great goalkeeper. Kept Liverpool in many of those big games that he played in. The Saint Etienne quarterfinal in '77 is one that stands true in my memory. He made 3 absolutely amazing saves in that game that we needed to win 3-1. And of course, Davy Fairclough came off the bench and got the winner.
He did. Everyone remembers Davy Fairclough.
Yeah. So very sad day. Ray Clements. He was the goalkeeper when I first started following Liverpool, as same with you. And produced, of course, Stephen Clements, who played many games for Spurs and Birmingham.
Sorry, mate. The other thing about Ray Clements was when he came back and played for Tottenham against us, and just the ovation that the Kop gave him. I remember in the second half when he came out and ran to the Kop, and they all just stood up and gave him the biggest applause I think I've ever seen for an opposition goalie. So that just shows you on what absolute reverence that he was held in for Liverpool. When
he left for Tottenham, it raised a few eyebrows. Leaving that great Liverpool side as it was at the end of the 80-81 season. And he was saying that after they'd won the European Cup for the 3rd time in 1981, he went back into the changing room and was holding his paper cup of champagne, and it just felt like another day at work, which is incredible after you've just won.
It is incredible.
And so he decided basically on the spot that he had a new challenge. And it was sad when he left because, as you mentioned, Bruce Grobbelaar took over, and it was probably a year or two early for Grobbelaar to take over as the number one. But because those first 2 years, he made some pretty hairy, glaring mistakes. And
I wouldn't say just the first 2 years. I'd say his whole career. Grobbelaar always kept you on your toes, didn't he?
He did turn into a very, very good goalkeeper.
He was always a good goalie. I just think he just took so many risks. It was like, what are you doing?
Anyway, rest in peace, Ray Clements.
Absolutely, mate. I've just got one more football thing before we move on to another sport. I don't know whether you've heard about this. Wrexham. You heard about Wrexham's latest owners.
Yes.
Rob McElhenney, who's something to do with the Philadelphia show. What is it? Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And Ryan Reynolds, Hollywood star Ryan Reynolds, are now the owners of Wrexham FC in Wales. And what is this going to mean for Wrexham? Are they getting a little bit of Hollywood? Hey?
Very interesting to see what happens there. And what was it Reynolds said the other day? He was talking to the local hardware agency about buying a new lawnmower for the club.
See, the thing is, he said, look, I don't really know a lot about football, but I've been looking for an investment opportunity. It had to be. But what I like, the noises they're making, they're sort of saying, no, we're really interested in promoting the community and doing all that sort of thing. So they're making all the right noises. Let's just see how it goes, eh? But
yes.
Good on them. Good
on
them.
They've got a bit of work to do to get back into the football league. They're in the fifth tier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bit
But
of
they
work.
are a big club, mate. I think they're
Yeah.
the third oldest club in the world,
Yes.
behind Sheffield and someone else. So and yeah, they have been up to the upper reaches before. So who knows? I mean, that's what you want to do. You want to buy a club down the bottom. You don't want to buy them when they're up the top. So a little bit of Hollywood in Wales, mate. A little bit of
Quite
Hollywood.
right. Quite right.
Shall we go to baseball?
We shall.
Okay. Social media has gone off following last week's news and our podcast, of course, where we covered it all off quite handsomely. You can check the previous podcast for that. We covered it all off last week. The Auckland Tuatara has withdrawn from the 2021 ABL season and was accused of mismanagement by the ABL boss, Cam Vale, or as I call him, Dick Head. Now, further COVID restrictions in Australia have caused a reshuffle of the season draw, and he may now have to eat a little bit of humble pie if borders continue to close in Australia. What do you make of all this, Macca?
Oh, I think it's fantastic that these borders are shutting down in Australia. The spotlight's gone right off the Auckland Tuatara. So
It has.
yeah, I'm still angry at the way his press release that he sent out and then backed it up the following day and just wouldn't back down. And some idiots on social media, and including myself, I got into a few people, and so yeah, I just think it's all a big storm in a teacup. I mean, they're talking about having to reshuffle the draw back to 6 teams. They've always had a 6-team competition up until 2 years ago, so I don't really see what the big problem is. But of course, now with the COVID rearing its ugly head again in South Australia, it's causing a few issues. So
What's going to happen then?
Well, work on it, work harder.
Yeah, what's going to happen, mate? Do you think there will be a season at all?
I don't. I think it'll end up there probably won't be a season because it's just going to get too hard.
Good? Is that good for the Tuatara?
Sorry, say again.
Is that good for the Tuatara? If there isn't a season, will that mean that they will be able to be mothballed and maybe next season when we have the vaccine and COVID's hopefully all over, we can get back to normal and the Tuatara will be back in?
Yeah, I think either way, the Tuatara will be back in next year. There's no real doubt about that. The ABL needs the Tuatara in the competition if they want a television deal, because no other franchise in Australia has a television deal. So,
No.
and with the television deal comes money, so that backs up the league. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. Few rumours around about possible alternatives for the Tuatara. So wait and see what comes out there. It would be great if the Tuatara could sort something else out and just give Cam Vale the finger.
Wouldn't it? I think Cam Vale needs to go for a long walk on Manly Beach with the head of the New Zealand Baseball Federation. Maybe they could sort it out that way. Hold hands, skip through the surf, and just lighten up a little bit, Cam.
Have a game of catch.
Absolutely, absolutely, mate.
Yes.
Now the Tuatara is now signing with Tuatara players now signing with other clubs. Kyle Glogoski has already signed for the Sydney Blue Sox. Relief pitcher Elliot Johnston is at Adelaide bound, while last year's MVP Jared Walker is joining Glogoski in Sydney. What do you make of all these moves?
Yeah, that was to be expected. The Tuatara had a good season last year, and these 3 players all played very well. Elliot Johnson won the Relief Pitcher Award for the season with an ERA of just over 1 run per 9 innings. So, I mean, he was on the verge of signing for an Major League Baseball club at the time, but obviously COVID put a break on hold on that. And he had just improved so much from the previous season, and he was really showing what he could do. I've watched Elliot over the last 6-7 years grow into a fine young man, a fine pitcher, and I really think he's one of a few that could really go all the way, especially if he stays as a relief pitcher. I think his days as a starter are numbered, but yeah, the good.
So what will be the story? What will be the story with their contracts, Macca? If they do play for these other teams this season, say we get back to normal next season, will they be able to come back to the Tuatara?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Elliot's only been signed to a 1-year deal. Okay. Same with Jared Walker, and I'm not sure what Kyle's arrangement is, but yeah, I mean, they had to be released by the Tuatara first, obviously.
Okay.
And with the Tuatara not competing this year, that was pretty easy.
Yeah,
So I think you'll find at least a few other Tuatara players will end up playing over there if indeed they do get the league up and running. But yeah, hopefully the COVID situation in South Australia doesn't put a further hold on Elliott's career at least. So we'll just have to wait and see.
All right. What about the big MLB, mate? The season, it's off season over in America at the moment, but things are heating up over there, mate. Free agents all looking for the best deals to sign for new or existing clubs. Some big names up for grabs this northern winter. The American League batting champ DJ LeMahieu and National League Cy Young winner Trevor Bauer, Phillies catcher superstar JT Realmuto, and Houston Astros centre fielder George Springer are all up for grabs. You got any inside oil as to where any of those guys are going to end up?
Well, I mean, I'd love to see DJ LeMahieu back at the Yankees. I mean,
besides the Yankees,
he's been absolutely brilliant this year. But another one who's actually up for grabs, he's not a free agent, but the Cleveland Indians are looking at trading superstar shortstop Francisco Lindor. And the word certainly out of New York is that the Yankees should prioritize trading for Lindor rather than signing LeMahieu. I mean, I'd love to see both of them at the Yankees, obviously, but it all comes down to dollars and cents. The Yankees are wanting to stay under the $210 million salary. Well, it's not a cap. It's a luxury tax.
Soft cap, isn't it? Soft cap.
Yeah, soft cap.
Yeah.
So because they've been over it the last 2 seasons. And so if you go over it 3 seasons in a row, the tax is a hell of a lot higher than if they manage to stay under it. So, yeah, it'll be interesting if LeMahieu doesn't end up back at the Yankees. There's word that he may stay in New York and go to the Mets. They've just got a new owner with big pockets, so that could be interesting. And there's also talk about him going north of the border to the Blue Jays. So, he's LeMahieu's 32 now, in the absolute prime of his career. I think he could get a deal 4 to 5 years worth upwards of over $100 million. So that's one. Trevor Bauer is a more interesting one. Great.
Who needs the pitcher? Who needs some pitching?
Interesting character. He was playing for he was a long-time Cleveland Indian. Then he got traded to the Kansas City Royals. And one famous incident there was he got taken out by the manager, and rather than just hand the ball over to the manager, he threw it out over the centre field wall.
No way.
So, he's an interesting character. In the 2016 World Series against the Chicago Cubs, missed 2 starts because the day before he was due to start, he was playing with his drone and cut his finger on his pitching hand. So,
That's about as good as an excuse as Rio Ferdinand playing PlayStation, mate.
He's been with the Reds, Cincinnati Reds this year. I think likely destinations for him may be Houston. They're certainly going to be looking for pitching to back up Justin Verlander. JT Realmuto is another interesting one. He was a long time with the Marlins and then got traded to the Phillies before last season, so he's now become a free agent. He is an absolute superstar, this guy. He's a great catcher, and he can also hit, which is there's not many catchers around in the major leagues that can do both. A lot of the catchers around are either really good defensive catchers, but not great hitters, or you've got good hitters that are only very average behind the plate. And the Yankees are certainly deciding at the moment whether they're going to keep hold of Gary Sanchez, who's been hitting really badly and not catching the greatest either. And the other one, Houston Astros centre fielder George Springer. He comes from the Massachusetts region. There's a lot of talk about him going to Boston. Of course, Boston have just re-signed Alex Cora as their manager, and Alex Cora was the bench coach for the Astros during his trash can season. So there's already
You're never going to let them forget that, are you?
No, absolutely not. But and there's obviously a lot more free agents on the market, and it's as they call it in football, it's the silly season, or Americans call it the hot stove season. So lots of interesting things to happen between now and spring training beginning in February. So
Okay, well, we'll keep you updated with all the moves in Major League Baseball right here. Macca's across all of that for you.
Yes.
Okay, let's move to some New Zealand style baseball, a
Yep.
sport we call cricket. Macca, you might remember it.
Well,
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen our Black Caps play, so I'm getting quite fired up about this series, even though I think it might be a bit of a walkover. But anyway, 4 new members of the Black Caps T20 squad. We've got Lockie Ferguson, 4 members, Lockie Ferguson, Jimmy Neesham, Mitchell Santner, and Tim Seifert are all in managed isolation now after playing in the Big Bash League and are not due out until the day before the first T20 on November the 29th. Is this going to be a problem?
Well, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They're all having a good rest in the hotel for a couple of weeks. I think after they've passed their 3-day test, they're allowed to go to Lincoln, the high performance in Lincoln, to practice amongst just the 4 of them, obviously. So they have to keep within their bubble. So yeah, it's only T20.
It's only T20. I was going to say the same thing, mate.
Yeah, it's only T20. So yeah,
well, you and I have talked about this before. We don't think that you should even be playing T20 internationally, do we?
No. There's enough competitions around the world. It's just all of this is a money grab by the home country's cricket body.
Yep, have to agree. New Kiwi resident Devon Conway, or as they called him on TV1 News the other day, Devon Conway. Devon Conway. That's a new one for me. Devon. Yeah. He's scoring runs for fun in the Plunket Shield, hitting a century earlier this week and averaging over 42 in the long form. He's made the 1-day squad, but he's been left out of the test squad. I was a little bit surprised about that. Were you?
Very surprised, especially given that Henry Nicholls is only just coming back from a calf injury. I think it was in a Plunket Shield game that started yesterday. So, yeah, I was very surprised. I know Will Young has been named in the test squad.
Got a century yesterday too, didn't he?
Yeah, he got a century yesterday. It'll be interesting to see whether they keep that top 5. Of course, there could be an opening at number 6 with Colin de Gronholm struggling with an injury at the moment. So whether they go in with 6 batsmen could be an interesting side for that first test in in Hamilton in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, I think it's a big call. The guys, as I say, as we said, has been scoring runs for fun, not just this season, but for the past 3 seasons in a row. He's been the top batsman in Plunket Shield.
Yep.
So, and he's.
I would have had him in there. I mean, I would have had him in both. I can't. But I guess he's waited this long. A few more first-class runs. Let's just hope that we don't see the same conservative type of selections. I did notice that our Tim Southey's been named in the side. We talked about him a little bit last week, and I thought perhaps his time was over. Obviously, the New Zealand selectors don't think so.
Yeah. Well, he's been named in the 13. Whether he makes the 11 or not's another story.
So what's the point then?
Yeah.
So that's what I would have a batsman. I mean, I don't know.
I guess a lot will depend on the wicket. I mean, neither Hamilton nor the Basin Reserve are big turning wickets. So whether as Patel plays, it might pave the way to have 4 seamers. And of course, with the injury cloud over de Gronholm, if he doesn't play, it might open up a spot for Southey as well. So we'll just have to wait and see. And we've got a strong New Zealand A team, which is named last week, including Conway, for the 3-day game against the Windies in Queenstown this week. And that's to be followed by a second game over 4 days. And there's another of these overseas players that is now qualified for New Zealand, Mitchell Rippon from the Netherlands, who apparently is a spin bowler and has been doing pretty well in Plunket Shield as well. It's not a name I'd heard of until I saw this New Zealand A team name. So, Michael Rippon, I think his name is. So, yeah.
Either way, that's a great surname for a guy that's a spin bowler.
Rippon.
Hey, it's perfect. Right. Give it a rippon. Good on you. That's interesting. Now, cricket is going to be broadcast now on Spark Sport. So if you don't have your subscription already sorted, you better get that sorted. And it's going to be produced by top UK production team Whisper. co-founded by Formula F1 driver David Coulthard, and are promising a slick watch for Kiwis on Spark Sport that none of the issues experienced during the World Cup are going to be repeated. What do you think? Do you believe them?
Who knows? I think a lot of those problems that they had during the World Cup, apart from the opening game against South Africa, where they admitted that their platform let them down, I think a lot of the other problems have been individuals' setups. I mean, if you've got a smart TV and you've got good internet, it's not a problem. Even here in Greytown, I watch football on Spark Sport, and there's no blurring, there's no. Buffering or anything like that, and it just had fibre installed. And even before the fibre was installed, it was still quality watching. So, I think a lot of it has to do with people's setups. They're either not set up correctly, or their internet's not the greatest, or they're wirelessly transferring it from.
It's not going through the TCP router. You see what you've done. You've got to hyper do that and put the coaxial there. Exactly, mate. Sort it out. The thing is with the Spark Sport, man, well, I've been watching quite a bit of it. The thing that does frustrate me, especially when I'm watching the Premier League, is when I try and watch the highlights, they are shoddily edited. Okay, so I turn it on and I get like 2 minutes of build-up. I mean, this is for 10 minutes of highlights. You get 2 minutes of the teams walking out, then a little bit of the manager, a little bit of the manager there, a little bit of the manager. I'm like, just get to the game. It's only 10 minutes, And this is editing done by the Spark Sport team. Okay, so they've got, I know for a fact, they've got juniors in there from other organizations that haven't got a clue how to edit that stuff. And so that's why, that's the thing that pisses me off, not so much the buffering and all the technical stuff. If you get that right, it's a good service. What gives me confidence here is if it is a top production company, that we shouldn't have any of those problems. I should be able to go in, if I've missed the cricket all day, the day before, I should be able to go in, watch the highlights and not think, oh shit, what's going on? Oh, there's no score up there. I don't know what's going. It should be edited in a professional way, like it is on Sky Sport, and that's all I hope.
Yes, well, I did watch some of the because they won the rights for all the England games over our winter, their summer, and
I watched a bit of that too.
The production from that was pretty good.
It was good. It was good.
I would wake up in the morning not knowing what the score was, and so I could watch highlights or I could watch the whole day's play. Whenever I wanted to, if I just wanted to watch the second session or the last session, I could choose that and I could watch that. So I was pretty impressed with what they produced for the England games. If they can be just as good as that, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, and then we've just got the commentary teams, and we're not going to comment on them until we see them. Okay, until we hear them and see them.
Look, and just on another quick matter, we've been fairly vocal on our displeasure of the TVNZ and News Hub Sports News during the week.
It's both of them, mate. It's TVNZ. Yeah, sorry.
I noticed over the weekend a new program on Sky called The Verdict, which was Ravinda Hunia and Goran Paladin and Mills Muliaina pretty much doing exactly the same as what we do. It wasn't a bad program, and they get a quick introduction of what they want to talk about, and then go into it in a bit more depth. And they were talking about the red cards with the program that I watched. And old Mills Muliaina doesn't hold back.
Well, that's what you got to do, mate. You got to tell people how you really think, don't you? I mean, you can hold back some. It's going to be a little bit closer, but no, I want my commentators to commentate. I want them to tell me what they're really thinking. I saw another little comment about some other commentator the other day. Oh, that's right. It was about Roy Keane. And there were people online ripping into Roy Keane saying, oh, he was a good player. He was an okay captain, but he's a crap comments, man. Oh, my God, he's so negative. And I was thinking, every time, he's box office for me. Every time I see Roy Keane, I want to hear what he's saying because he tells me exactly what he thinks. I might not agree with it, but he tells me what he thinks, and he doesn't give a shit what anyone else thinks if they disagree with him. And it actually fires up the other guys, and it provides real debate. And I want to see that, I want to see people that tell me what they really think. There's enough beige out there, mate. There's enough beige.
Right, on to rugby league. Queensland have taken an absolute hammering in the media. Are they really the worst team ever north of the border?
Well, if you put them on paper, they are, mate. They're an absolutely awful team. I look at their team. I just could not find really too many players in there that would be in any of their previous teams. Daly Cherry Evans is kind of an average halfback. I think they are average. I think the thing that makes them better than average is the coach. I think Wayne Bennett can get them up and running. They're going to have 56,000 or so for the game in Brisbane on tonight, isn't it? Tonight.
Yep.
They're going to have a lot of banana vendors there, a lot of people getting quite feral, and I think that if they've got any chance, that is what will take them to victory tonight. It'll be the vociferous support, good coaching, and the players just doing their job. If they don't, if New South Wales come out and play within 90% of how good they are, they should kill them. But this is State of Origin, so who knows, mate? Who knows?
Yes, quite right. And now Cameron Smith has said he's played his last game for the Melbourne Storm, but won't confirm he's retiring. What's up with the superstar? And I've heard a couple of rumours he might be signing for the Gold Coast.
Yeah, I've heard those too, mate. I think he should stick to his golf, because didn't he come third in the Masters? He's pretty. No, listen, I don't think he's going to retire. The question is he going to stay at the Storm? Now, I think he's come too far. I think if he was going to retire, he would have pulled the pin by now. So the question is, does he stay at the Storm? And if he does stay at the Storm, does that mean that the other boy Smith, and the other players that are there stay there? Or I think the Storm have to let him go. And I could see him going to the Gold Coast. I really could. So that would be interesting, though, wouldn't it? Cameron Smith, after that many years playing for the Gold Coast. So, that's where he's from. So, good luck to the guy anyway. He doesn't have anything to prove, does he?
Yes, I think a lot of people were expecting more of a statement when he launched his book.
He's got a book out, yeah.
So, it'll be, I know he did say that he's played his last game for the Storm. So
there was the old. It has raised the debate again about what happened between Cameron Smith and Cooper Cronk.
Yeah.
How did that rift happen? Apparently, it's because he didn't go to his wedding, and wives are involved. And mate, as soon as women get involved, it gets tricky. It gets tricky.
Good segue there,
Thanks,
Aaron,
mate.
because another rugby league and rugby union superstar, Honey Hirami Smiler, has hung up her boots after a stellar career in both oval ball codes. Is she the Sonny Bill of the women's game, and how much will her influence be missed, especially on the league code?
I think a lot. She's an amazing player. She is the Sonny Bill Williams. She's maybe a cross between Sonny Bill Williams and I don't know. But anyway, she's a fantastic player, and she will be missed. The problem with women's rugby league is they just don't play enough. They just don't. International rugby league, there's only a couple of teams you can play. Club rugby league, they don't launch it until it's playoffs time for the guys. So really what they need to do is get a little bit more money in the sport. And but yeah, man, she's been a hell of a player, and I wish her nothing but the best. I've seen her commentating or doing some stuff before games at the Warriors, and I haven't been entirely complimentary, I must say, but she has the knowledge. It's just to how you impart that knowledge. And I think with a little bit more training, I think she's got a career in that. So, I'm loath to criticize people in those sort of roles when they first start, because, you got to have a go, don't you? And but she does have a lot of knowledge around the sport. So good luck to the woman. Good luck to the woman.
Yes, I've seen her. She's been on, I think, the Breakdown, the rugby program. And I was quite impressed with her. Yes, she's got great knowledge of both games. Don't get me wrong. And yes, that confidence on camera, it certainly will come, as we've seen.
Absolutely.
With a lot of other people. On to motorsport. Shane Van Gisbergen showed he's a class driver by
Wasn't that awesome?
Jack's Ridge Rally Classic over the weekend after superstar Hayden Paddon crashed out. How good is the Giz?
Mate, how good is that racing? I didn't even know what this was. I was just cycling through the remote, and they're like, and I went past it a couple of times. Jack's Ridge Classic. And I was like, I'm not really interested in that. What is that, tennis? I wasn't even sure. Golf. Jack's Ridge sounds like a golf tournament. And then I just sort of stopped for 5 seconds, and I could not change the channel. It was just such good racing, man.
Yeah.
That's what a course. But the Giz, who knew that? I mean, we all knew he was a bit of a boy racer. Obviously, the guy's loves the burnouts and all that sort of thing. But man, I don't think there's a car in this world that guy couldn't drive fast, eh? I mean, he is just a phenomenal driver. Loves letting it all hang out, and just to jump in that car on the weekend and win that from a bunch of other people, rally car drivers, locals that knew that track back to front, and he just caned them all. He's just a phenomenal driver, mate. Phenomenal driver.
And of course, on the first day, they had it was just a one-off day where you got to drive classic cars, and he drove his father's 40-year-old Ford Escort around that damn near record time.
Awesome. Wonder what it's got under the hood. It wouldn't be an Escort engine, that's for sure.
Incredible. But I mean, his father, he grew up in a rally family because his father was a rally driver as Shane was growing up. So he certainly wasn't the first time, I'm sure, he's jumped in a rally car. Well, that showed.
No, but it's a hell of a lot different. But I remember once when I did a hot lap of Pukekohe when we were working for Vodafone a lifetime ago, mate, and talking to those drivers, the supercar drivers, about that. This is before Shane Van Gisbergen was even involved in the drive. And all of those guys, all of the drivers I spoke to that day, they were all like, rally drivers are the best drivers. Those guys, I mean, we can do what we can do. I know this course out here, I can drive it, but put me in a rally car, I would be poop, Those guys have the best control, because they have just a real feeling for the car. Yeah. And obviously showed Shane Van Gisbergen's taken that to the track. It's probably easier to do it that way, So what a driver that guy is, mate. Absolute champion. And the smile on his face when they wound down the window at the end, you're just like, woo! You're just like,
it was like Scott McLaughlin after he crashed out of the IndyCar.
It was. I've just had the best day of my life. Yeah, exactly, mate.
Actually, one quick thing on Scott McLaughlin, I read the other day where the actual final decision-making person he spoke to before deciding to go full-time to Indy cars was actually a phone call from Scott Dixon. And they had a long chat apparently about Indy cars, and it was that conversation which sealed the deal for Scott McLaughlin. So I'm wondering if in a couple of years down the track, that phone call might come, Scott Dixon might come to regret that.
Well, maybe, or maybe he's looking for a teammate a couple of years down the track, mate. You never know. Yes. But Scotty's the sort of guy, mate. He would, he's just a nice guy. I mean, he would pick up the phone and say to him, mate, it's been nothing but great for me. You've obviously got talent. Come across. He would never say, don't do it, because he'd think he was going to be some competition anyway, would he? And to be fair, I mean, Scott Dixon, why should he feel threatened?
Exactly.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Shall we talk a little bit of golf, mate? The Masters was on over the past week, and American Dustin Johnson finally got rid of his chokers tag by blitzing the field to win his first green jacket by 5 shots. A record round of 268. It was actually 20 under, wasn't it? Yeah. 20 under, beating Tiger Woods and Jordan Spieth's record by 2 shots. The thing is, when Tiger won it all those years ago by 18 under, I think he was the only player under the card when Tiger won it. When Jordan Spieth won it, the course had been changed a little bit, so there were reasons for that as well. Dustin Johnson, 20 under at the Masters. What the hell?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm just guessing. I'm totally guessing on this because I'm not a huge golf fan.
Yeah.
And it's really only during the 4 Masters that I sort of show any interest in the sport.
Yeah.
But I was wondering over the weekend whether it was the lack of a crowd there that helped somebody like Dustin Johnson, who's not not a Ricky Fowler or a Rory McIlroy or a Sergio Garcia that gets fired up by crowds. He just goes about his business, does his job, and maybe the quieter surroundings suited him, and he was able to concentrate a hell of a lot more. But yeah, great performance, no doubt about it. And I like it. I think he went into the final day with a 6-shot lead.
He did.
And some other very good golfers. As you mentioned, Cam Smith, the Australian, finished in 3rd place. And The boy from Korea was looking good as well. I think his name was.
Yeah.
And the young fella Abraham Answer looks like
Yeah, he did. He looked good too.
a
Yeah,
good guy.
Bryson DeChambeau or whatever his name is, the big hitter, he got nowhere, did he?
Nowhere.
He just
No, absolutely
disappeared. Yeah, obviously Dustin Johnson as well as also Wayne Gretzky's son-in-law. Did you know that? He's married to
I did not know that.
Wayne Gretzky's daughter. So very interesting there. So he's got a very famous father-in-law, and I'm sure Wayne sheltered him a bottle of something fizzy afterwards. So
Now, there was one hole I'm sure our good friend Martin Reed would have been rubbing his hands with glee over when Tiger blew out on the par 3 12th hole, putting 3 balls in the water and picking up a septuple bogey 7 over 10. Do you reckon he'll ever win another major?
Well, I'll tell you what, Tiger's always been a fan of 10s.
It's just the first time he's had it on the
golf. I've been waiting to share that joke. I know. Look, I didn't think he was going to win another major, and then he won the Masters a couple of years ago. So what the hell do I know, mate? What the hell do I know? I've never been a fan of Tiger. I mean, even when he was doing all the stuff before, I've never been a massive fan of the guy. I just can't connect with him. I mean, I admire his golfing skill. You can't help to do that. But as a person, the way he talks, the way he acts, what he's done, I just can't get behind the guy. So really, I wouldn't care if he didn't win a major. Does that make me heartless? I don't know.
No.
A 10. That was great. I love seeing professional players struggle, eh? Don't you love it? And that's
Absolutely.
the thing. That's the thing with this course. You know, it was long considered. It was only a few years ago where there was only one player under the card, and it was a 3 under that won it. You know, so this is the sort of course that they struggle at more. 20 under winning it. I did hear Bob Charles. He's got a book coming out shortly. Yes. Talking over the weekend, and he mentioned one of the big bugbears for him is balls. Golf balls specifically. The technology behind the golf balls. He said he reckons if he hits the golf ball today compared to the one he hit back in 1963 when he won the British Open, it will travel about 100 yards further than what it did then. And it's nothing to do with the clubs. The clubs, the technology in the clubs, yes, it has improved, but he's got a big thing about it. He says, look, if you look at a sport like tennis or cricket or anything, they don't change the ball. And I think ball technology is a lot to do with this. So could be something to look at for the, maybe they just need to keep the ball standard, you know. It needs to be a struggle. I mean, as a spectator, you want to watch professional golfers struggle, don't you? You want the toughest courses, but because then you can think, oh, they're just like me, you know. They're just, I can't play golf either, you know, because it's the hardest sport, man. It is so hard. So
it is, and I mean, the baseball's had the same issue with Major League Baseball being accused of juicing the baseballs to make them harder so they'll fly further. And you get areas like Colorado, which is at high altitude, and Arizona and Texas, where it's obviously a hell of a lot hotter than a lot of areas. The clubs have actually got humidors where they keep all the baseballs in. Yes, to keep the moisture in the ball. Obviously, that doesn't work that well in Colorado because they're at high altitude and the ball still flies further. So, there has been a problem. They, as I say, the baseballs get harder and end up, being a bit like a rock. So it's always going to fly further without any moisture in it. So
actually, getting back to the balls in cricket as well, there has just been that directive from the ICC. You're not allowed to use saliva on the ball anymore. The true story. They're not allowed to use saliva. However,
that's
you are allowed to use
related than
but you are allowed to use sweat.
Yes.
So
crazy.
I don't know. But either way, I mean, ball technology is something that they do need to look at, especially if it's changing the sport. That's the thing with baseball. There are too many home runs in baseball at the moment. Golf, there are too many players ripping out the courses. So I just think let's get back to basics, mate. I mean, we are basic sort of guys after all, aren't we?
Well, exactly. And Tiger Woods has always liked his balls to be tampered with.
Oh, and on that bombshell, mate. Hey, make sure you make a comment and drop us a like below, and make sure you subscribe to the Hot Air Sports podcast on YouTube. Until then, it's good night from me.
And it's goodbye from him.